Blackened hog with whitish bits scattered all about it like torn paper.
Nigerian author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie is only 31, but she already has a following that writers twice her age would envy. But to her, age is just a number.
I've lived many, many lives.
Her first novel, Purple Hibiscus, debuted to critical acclaim. Her follow-up, Half of a Yellow Sun, quickly established Adichie as one of the leading voices of her generation.
He began to edge closer and closer to the bookshelf.
This week on African Voices, renowned author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. After a 2-year hiatus, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie is back with The Thing Around Your Neck, a collection of 12 short stories about the Nigerian immigrant experience. And judging from the packed house at this recent book signing, her fans are more than happy she's returned.
Laura, I can tell you that your work is incredible. Not to be weird, but I do stalk you like every short story.
The Thing Around Your Neck is Adichie's first collection of short stories. She's a huge fan of the abbreviated form, but she says writing shorter isn't necessarily easier.
The novel is longer, obviously, and sort of tasks you more in terms of time, but not necessarily, actually. Because some of my short stories took 4 years to do. Because you get to a point where you're just stumped and you leave it alone. And then, half a year later, I come back and I think, well, where's this going? And I try, and it's just bad, and I leave it alone. So
I understand that some of the short stories are as old as your debut, Purple Hibiscus.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
So you jump back and forth between short and long. How do you decide what is going to end up in your novel and what's going to end up as a short story?
I'm not always sure why I did something, and characters take over. I mean, for me, it's actually the magic of writing. But when I tell my family this, they look at me like, you're crazy. You wrote the book. What do you mean you don't know what the characters did? But it is true. Characters take over. And so I don't know. I don't know how I know it's a short story. It's the spirits that call me.
Unlike her previous works, which are set in her homeland of Nigeria, most of these stories take place in the U.S., where Adichie has lived since the late 90s. Many of the book's main characters are women who are filled with longing, regret, sadness. The men in their lives are a disappointment. America is an even bigger one.
Anyone reading this book may walk away with the idea that America is not the best place in the world. And marriage is not necessarily a great institution for women.
I like America. I just find that since this book came out, I've had to defend my affection for America in a way that I've never had to. I mean, I like America. It's very important for me to say this. I really do. But it's a complicated affection. No, but I think
that sense from the book. The immigrants who come here are stifled. They have to make great sacrifices, huge compromises.
Yeah, but they do. But that is the reality. They do. We can't pretend that immigration is easy and it's a breeze for people. It isn't. And I think that maybe in the book it's less about America and more about just the subject of immigration, of leaving home. I think it's difficult anywhere. So I meet lots of people who are like, oh, it's fine. I don't use my native name. They can't pronounce it. So I use my English name and I'm very happy. But then you think, but there's something quite sad. There are losses there that even by not acknowledging them, it makes it even sadder, at least for me. And I think that's what a lot of my fiction is about. So I don't, there are places if I wrote about some parts of the world, I think it would be obvious that I really dislike those parts of the world, but certainly not the US. Certainly not the US. I like America.
What about the women in this book?
I think
they seem stifled, burdened, melancholy.
Well, that's my story, Lola. That is it. No, but I think what you said about marriage, I think it's largely true. I think that that's certainly how I feel. I think that marriage as an institution isn't set up to benefit women. I think individual women, obviously, if they're fortunate, with individual men can work out something that suits them. But I do think that marriage as an institution can be very dangerous for women. I do believe that.
Do you use the word dangerous? That's a very strong word. Why do you say dangerous?
You know that's the story that we sell to young girls where the prince gets on his knee and whips out a ring and then you start crying in gratitude. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's also very dangerous for you know, if you have a 7-year-old girl who starts to absorb that, by the time she's 25, and you know, it doesn't matter what else she's read and been exposed to, that is dangerous, because what you're teaching her is marriage starts off on a tone of inequality. You know, so that getting down on the knee and she goes, oh, ho, 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 ho. Every time I see that image, I get very angry because no, I do, because
no Cinderella novels for you.
No. I mean, I
Snow
did
White.
read them. I did read them, but you know, if I had the if I could, I would ban them.
You've been in a serious relationship for some time. Is marriage on the horizon for you?
I will evade that question.
If someone were to get on their knee and hand you a ring, someone that you were in love with, would you accept it?
I think that I'm going to evade that question as well. No, but because I don't want to, it's not about me. It's just about how I feel that the getting on the knee, and it's less that and more about the expected reaction of the woman. It's that often, you know, she starts crying, she's surprised, or and there's sort of an underlying idea of gratitude that I just don't like. It's as though marriage is prize.
That's Adichie, bold, fearless, and completely unapologetic. She's like that in her writing as well. A few of the stories in her collection even feature gay characters, a no-no in African literature.
Homosexuality is still very taboo in Africa. What made you decide to actually go there?
I mean, for me, I just think it's the hypocrisy of it really is galling. And you know, I think the reality is there are gay people who are human beings in Nigeria, and I want to tell their stories.
But are you worried that having gay characters in this book might alienate some of your Nigerian readers?
No, because I think that to think about audiences, you just start to censor yourself. You know, if I think about my father, for example, there are things I wouldn't be able to write in my fiction. So I try not to think about anybody. And also I realize I can't please everybody, and I don't want to. And I don't even want to try. So there are people I know who will sort of say, you know, why are you doing this? And be gravely offended. But you know, maybe the book is not for them.
It may not be for them, but her work is loved around the world, and she's got the accolades to show for it.
So what's it like to be a half a millionaire?
I haven't thought about that